West Ham are in talks with Manchester City over a loan deal for Kalvin Phillips as the midfielder seeks a move to reignite his career. Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. We've got Dharmesh and we've got Michael with us this evening, and we've got the latest on Phillips coming up. Plus news from Newcastle, Arsenal and Chelsea. And also, Ivan Toney dominates yet another Brentford news conference.
It's like a new signing.
Don't believe what you read in the press, I would say, is a little bit of advice.
It's 99 point something that he will stay here.
You know that I'm not going to be talking about any individual.
Football is crazy, so you never know what's going to happen.
He's got incredible qualities.
Unfortunately, you know, these things in life sometimes just don't work out.
I think it's wrong to talk about players who are at other football clubs, and I won't do that, no.
Would you advise them, Mo Salah, for example, against going to Saudi Arabia?
We'll be in a better place when the window shuts than what it was when it opened.
I'm happy with the efforts that they're making.
The decision was this was the best move for me and my family at this time.
Have you had any offers as yet for him?
No.
None at all?
No. I can say no twice.
Right, let's start with Kalvin Phillips. We revealed on the Transfer Show yesterday that 6 clubs were interested in the Manchester City midfielder. Developments today. Dharmesh.
Yeah, one of those clubs that we mentioned yesterday was West Ham United, and we're told today that West Ham United are in talks with Manchester City over a deal to sign Kalvin Phillips. Now, that deal we understand to be a loan deal. Now, just a reminder, the other clubs, we know Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus as well. Juventus was much earlier on in the transfer window. Newcastle United as well, people putting 2 and 2 together because Joe Linton's injury. And also Crystal Palace, when Roy Hodgson was very open about the club's interest in Kalvin Phillips. Well, David Moyes was asked about the club's interest in Kalvin Phillips, but he wasn't as open as Roy.
We're reporting at Sky that there are talks over a potential loan move for Kalvin Phillips. I know it's difficult to comment on that, but are you able to give us an idea of how great it would be for a player of his quality to come to West Ham?
No, I wouldn't talk about players from other clubs, and I say that all the time when you ask me, so I think it's wrong to talk about players who are at other football clubs, and I won't do that, no.
Yeah, very different to what Roy Hodgson said when he was asked the question. But because it's a loan, I think when you look at it, it could work for everyone, because if Kalvin Phillips was to go away for 6 months and perform well and perform regularly, he'd still come back to Manchester City with another 4 years left on his contract. He signed such a long contract until 2028. So Manchester City can almost make that calculated risk. Because if you think about if they were to sell him now or even set an option price in January, what kind of price would they get? What kind of option price would they get, given he's hardly played? It would be much better, potentially, to wait for Kalvin Phillips to have regular first-team football and then maybe even see how he performs if he gets picked for Euro 2024. And if all of that comes to fruition, then City's asking price is probably going to be a lot higher in the summer than if they were to go into business for Kalvin Phillips just now. But, as I mentioned, it's just at the talk stage at this juncture. West Ham United interested, as are 5 other clubs. So this one could go on until next week, you think?
A lot of ifs in there, Dharmesh. Dharmesh has reeled off the 6 clubs who have shown an interest. Given the calibre of those clubs, how much of a coup, Michael, would it be if West Ham were to get him?
Yeah, big coup, Mike, and maybe West Ham could do with it. I mean, they've had a really good start to the season. Disappointing result against Bristol City midweek. They've got a number of injuries, a couple of players away, and AFCON as well. Now, after they sold Declan Rice to Arsenal, took a while to start spending that Declan Rice money, but didn't they spend it well? Kudos, James Ward-Prowse. Can you imagine Prowse alongside Kalvin Phillips potentially as well? OK, West Ham are out of the FA Cup. They're out of the League Cup. But what's David Moyes been so good at over the last few years? Making West Ham United European regulars. They're banging Europa League contention. They're so good in Europe. Gareth Southgate would love to go and see him at the London Stadium every Thursday, every Sunday. He'd be playing 18, 19, 20-odd games. Now, we know how much Gareth Southgate likes Kalvin Phillips, but he'd like him a lot more when he's starting 20-odd games.
Yeah, OK, so possible move to West Ham on the cards, and West Ham in the news, because Mikel Arteta was asked this afternoon if he wanted to shut down reports that Emile Smith Rowe could join West Ham on loan this month.
I'm really happy with Emile, and he's in the right trajectory, and now he's settled. He's training really well, and you know that I'm not going to be talking about any individual situation. Emile is Emile, you know, and he's got incredible qualities, and we are really happy to have him. And what he needs now is chances to put all the desire and qualities that they have on the pitch. In order to do that, we have to give him minutes.
So, Dharmesh, you didn't shut things down there, so shed a bit of light on this. Is this a move that can happen?
Look, what we do know is that there are several Premier League clubs who are interested in Emile Smith Rowe. There's lots of talk about West Ham United. It's our information that that's probably not the case just as it stands with, less than 2 weeks to go in this transfer window. But I've been told today that the player himself, Emile Smith Rowe, is totally focused on trying to fight his way back into Arsenal's starting 11. He was part of the squad that went for warm weather training out in Dubai in the last week or so. So he has been training with the squad as usual. He's still happy at the club. That's despite only making 2 starts in all competitions so far this season. But something that Mikel Arteta said there is quite poignant in that, you know, we've got to give him minutes. And so if he's saying that, he's kind of aware of the situation that Smith Rowe is in, and maybe it could be one that gets revisited in the summer. As it stands, it doesn't look like he wants to move or he expects to move in this transfer window. But come the last week of a transfer window, you never know, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk Newcastle now. Michael, uncertainty over a couple of their players, a couple of their high-profile players. Let's start with Kieran Trippier. What do we know?
This is quite extraordinary, and quite an extraordinary month for the richest club in football, because of obviously the PSR rules. Darren Eales talking about it a few weeks ago, about potentially might have to sell one of their first-team players. But Kieran Trippier was the man that started it all, wasn't it? When the takeover happened. And what a signing he's been. OK, his form's not been great, but he's been an excellent signing over the last few years. Now, our colleagues in Germany are telling us that Bayern Munich are very interested in bringing Trippier to Germany. He'd have some friends, wouldn't he? Harry Kane, Eric Dyer. But Eddie Howe sounds to us that he's not keen on losing Kieran Trippier. Look, even so, about losing one potential player, what Darren Eales has said, and we can totally understand this with PSR, you'd imagine someone who's like a leader in that dressing room, this is the last thing you'd want.
Dharmesh, leader in the dressing room, no doubt, class player, no doubt. He's had a really tricky and sticky month or so where he's been responsible for a lot of goals that Newcastle have conceded. Have Bayern been watching?
Yeah, I mean, everyone goes through bad form, don't they? He's the captain of the club. He's been one of their talismans since he's arrived at Newcastle United. So everyone goes through bad form. Bayern Munich, they went for Eric Dyer. Just because he hasn't been playing, it doesn't necessarily mean Eric Dyer is a bad player. Kieran Trippier has been playing, and for the most part, he's been at Newcastle United. He's been absolutely exceptional. So do you judge him on a few games where he probably hasn't looked himself, or the whole picture where he's been one of their best players?
Well, you hope it's a blip, don't you? Let's talk Joe Linton then, the other player that's causing a bit of uncertainty at Newcastle. Michael, what's going on with him?
Yeah, Newcastle fans again must be thinking, what on earth is going on? Because they're reading reports from various newspapers this morning. Might have played his last game for the club. I mean, why are they saying this? Well, he's got 18 months left on his contract. We know his thigh injury could keep him out until the summer. Now, the willingness, Eddie Howe is a huge, huge fan of Joe Linton. Remember, this was a signing before Eddie Howe, before the takeover. But what a turnaround he's had in his Newcastle career. He's a real key player. Club and player clearly don't want this to drag on because he's got, as I say, 18 months left on his contract. And more on that as we get it. But he's a real crowd favourite as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of crowd favourites, Ivan Toney back this weekend and captain of Brentford. Now, is he staying at the club? Well, Thomas Frank was asked just that a bit earlier.
So just to let you know, we're not going to take any questions on Ivan Toney today. Absolutely none.
259 days since Ivan Toney last played a Premier League game. How would you describe his mood around the training ground this week?
He's buzzing. I can break it now. He will start tomorrow. And he will also lead the team out of the tunnel. It's like a new signing. I think there is an argument. Of course, everyone needs to prove themselves again, but there's an argument that he's maybe the the second best striker in the Premier League right now. It's 99 point something that he will stay here. Football is crazy, so you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. He's very committed to be here. He's very committed to help the team. Spoke with him yesterday about it. That's the only thing on his mind. We just have that 0.0 something number of craziness in football that you can't rule out.
Have you had any offers as yet for him?
No.
None at all?
No. I can say no twice.
So, Dharmesh, he said 99 and a bit chance he stays at Brentford, but football is crazy. He can't possibly go, can he, in this month?
Well, I mean, everyone's been singing from the same hymn sheet, it seems. When you ask Ivan Toney this question, he said earlier this week, you never know. Thomas Frank, he's staying 99.99%. It's just that 0.01% that everyone will focus on. Oh, does that mean that there's a chance? I just think that it's a situation where there's only a couple of weeks left in this transfer window, and Brentford are going to have to weigh a couple of things up. If they get a bid that's £100 million plus, of course they're going to have to consider it. Does it necessarily mean that they need to take the money? And is that the right decision for Brentford to take the money? Some people would say £100 million is too good to refuse. But if you look at it in another way, he's got 18 months left on his contract. So Brentford have got a little room for manoeuvre here. So if they were to keep him, and he keeps him in the Premier League and his goals help Brentford stay in the Premier League, he might not be worth as much in the summer because of a contract situation, from a quality perspective, they could still ask for the same amount of money. Yeah. But the fact is, if they stay in the Premier League, the amount of money they'll get for staying in the Premier League and remaining in the Premier League, it's far going to outweigh the shortfall of a transfer fee that they might get in this window compared to the summer.
Absolutely. Michael, I'm being told you've got some breaking news coming out of Chelsea. What is it?
Yes, that's right, Mike. Coming out of Chelsea, they've recalled Cesare Casadei from his loan spell at Leicester City. No word if he'll be loaned back out yet or back in Maurizio Pochettino's first-team squad at Chelsea, but he has returned from his loan spell from Championship leaders Leicester City. 25 appearances, mostly off the bench, 3 goals. He's back at Chelsea.
Another bit of breaking news on the transfer show. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will go live to Amsterdam, where Jordan Henderson faced the media today after that move to Ajax. That and more to come. See you in a moment. Listen, I know this is a transfer show, but we've got some breaking news and we've got the perfect man to tell you, Michael Bridge.
You can see at the bottom of your screen, Mike, Luke Littler has just hit a 9-dart finish, a perfect leg in the Bahrain Masters against Nathan Aspinall. Treble 20, treble 19, double 12. Unbelievable. Remember, Luke Littler, World Darts Championship final, and he's in the Premier League on February 1st. Quite unbelievable. What a story. This story carries on. Luke Littler, 9-darter. Unbelievable.
It absolutely is. All right, back to transfers. Jordan Henderson, as you know, completed his move from the Saudi Pro League to Ajax last night. Faced the media today. There for us, Gary Cottrell, of course. And Gary, very good evening. So just give us an idea of his demeanour.
Listen, it was a long news conference, about 30 minutes long, asked by a room full, I would have thought, 20 journalists, about 2 or 3 questions each. And he hit a few treble 20s because he was very calm, he was very relaxed, he was very smiley. Of course, he was asked about his time in Saudi Arabia. I think it's one of the few new player press conferences I've been to where there were more questions about the club that he'd left than there were about the club that he's joining. He was asked a couple of times whether he regretted going to Saudi Arabia. He wouldn't use the word regret. He said, listen, we live and we learn. I've met people there I'll always remember. I've had experiences there I'll always remember. Of course, there were political questions, the human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. He said he was sorry. He apologised if he caused any offence to anybody. He never meant to do it. He was booed, of course, by England fans, wasn't he, for going to Saudi Arabia? And then I asked him whether or not his experience and the fact he's cut his time there short had made him think about talking to other players, other managers who might be tempted in future transfer windows to go to Saudi Arabia. Mo Salah, for example, whether he'd spoken to them and advised them against it.
No, definitely not. You know, listen, people, everyone's different. You know, you look at people who were there, big players who are there now, who are loving every second of it, staying there for a long period of time and love it. You might get others that don't settle, or something happens in the private life, whatever it may be, and things change quickly. So, yeah, everybody's different, but I would definitely not sit here and speak badly of the league or the clubs or anything like that. That's just not the case, and I've got full respect for the opportunity that I was given to go there, and unfortunately. It didn't work out. It was a short space of time, but again, that can happen in life. That can happen in football, you know, and that's the way it is. You just got to move on, and we'll both shake hands and move on, and nothing changes.
So a big transfer deal in January done and dusted. He'll be wearing the number 6 shirt here. Can't wear the number 14 because that is retired, of course, Johan Cruyff's shirt. And he can't play for a while either. Maybe not for days, maybe not for weeks, because he hasn't got the paperwork through to complete the move from Saudi Arabia to be able to play in Europe. And he can't even train. So he's looking forward, though, to putting on that shirt and showing that he is still a player who's got a career at the top of football and is still a player who can represent England in the summer.
Gary Cottrell, live from Amsterdam. Spot on, Gary. Some might say a bullseye. Thank you very much. Well, following Henderson's departure, Cristiano Ronaldo has launched a strong defence of the Saudi Pro League. He believes it's already better than France's Ligue 1.
To be honest, I think the Saudi League is not worse than French League, to be in my opinion. In French League, I think you have 2-3 teams with a good level. In Saudi now, I think it's a more competitive. They can say whatever they want. It's just my opinion, and I played there 1 year, so I know what I'm talking about. But I think right now we are better than French League, so we still improve.
All right, we're going to talk Crystal Palace now. We know that Roy Hodgson wants to strengthen where? Central midfield, we think, following that long-term injury to Czech Doucouré. Palace, one of 6 clubs linked with a move for Kalvin Phillips. But we know that West Ham are one of those.
I can't give any update on the position with regard to any player at the moment, but I do know that Doug Freeman and Steve Parish are working hard to try and bring a couple of players at least into the club. So I'm happy with the efforts that they're making, but I'm afraid I can't give you any updates on anything. When I came back, we were discussing certain areas of the field where we thought it would be good if we could get some strengthening to our squad. The loss of Doucouré, if anything, has exacerbated that situation because he's doing such an important job for us there in the centre of the midfield. So there's no doubt that the central midfield position is something we do need to look at and strengthen, because now Doucouré won't play probably for the rest of this season. And then, of course, there are one or two other positions as well that we've always liked and thought would be good if we could do something, but it's difficult.
Difficult, he says, but he does want to do business. Do you see Palace getting busy between now and the end of the window?
Yeah, they're looking to do things, Mike. I think maybe one or two they'll bring in. Might be the final week of the window. They're looking at maybe potentially a right-back, a centre-half. But the key position, as Roy Hodgson just said to us there, a central midfielder. So it could be a busy final week for Crystal Palace.
OK, let's talk Tottenham then. Bit of movement there today.
Exciting breaking news this morning that they're in talks with Club Brugge over the potential signing of a very exciting young Norwegian winger, Antonio Nusa. Now, discussions are taking place. Potentially, Brugge, if they do accept a bid from Tottenham, that he would return on loan. Now, this has worked for Tottenham in the past. Destiny Udogie signed from Udinese, went back. Pape Sarr stayed at his parent club, went back on loan, and they've been fantastic under Postecoglou. So more on that as we get it.
He's already a Norway international. He's been capped, and 4 caps or something?
Yeah, and
so he can play.
Yeah, he's played in the Champions League as well, and he's been looked at. Spurs have looked at him for a while, and it would be a really exciting one, a kind of Postecoglou kind of player, a rapid forward as well. So Spurs fans obviously excited. Nothing done yet, though. Talks are continuing. Spurs have said goodbye to a winger today, though, Ivan Perisic. He has joined. He's left on loan. He's gone back to Croatia. Perisic, now, this is a lovely story here with Hajduk Split joining his boyhood club. Now,
He was born in Split. Sorry if I've ruined your story.
No. This is a lovely story. Until the end of the season, his wage to help them with their finances, €1 a month. That's how much he loves the club. Now, Hajduk Split talking about this as well. It does seem that they'll give him a contract at the end of this loan, so we can probably assume he has played his last game for Spurs. So Ivan Perisic, Hajduk Split. And I must also say he's currently having he's got an ACL injury, so he won't play for a few months.
Good on him, though. Born in Split, playing for Hajduk Split for no money, virtually. Right, before we go, very quickly, Dharmesh, we've got some outgoings at United. What's going on?
Yeah, it seems to be the theme of this transfer window for Manchester United. Another one that's moving closer is Facundo Pellistri. Granada, we're told, are advancing in talks with Manchester United, and we think it's a straight loan. He's still got 18 months left on his contract. United have got an option for a further year as well. They've got competition, though, Granada, because this deal hasn't finally been agreed yet, and PSV and a couple of other clubs in the MLS, they remain interested as well. But as it stands, the direction of travel appears to be Facundo Pellistri making a loan move to Granada.
Has he got a long time on his contract?
Yeah, so he's into the final 18 months now, but United have got that option for a further year. So we were talking about Kalvin Phillips before, and using the Jadon Sancho as an example, in that if he does a straight loan and performs well and gets regular first-team football, then maybe United will use him and talk about a new contract with 12 months left of his current deal. Or think, actually, his market value's gone up. We can do business in the permanent transfer market this time.
Right, got 20 seconds, so will we fit this in? Any incomings at United?
I mean, they're looking, and a lot of the youth players and the academy graduates that they've allowed to leave in the past window, the past 2 or 3 windows, might just put them in a position where they can go into the loan market or the permanent market. It looks like they will wait until the summer and reassess everything.
That is the transfer show at 5. The boys are back at 7 for much more in-depth. After the break, the rest of the sports news, and we'll probably talk about someone called Luke Littler. See you in a moment.